All right, everybody, I told you we'd be right back. I am a man of my word. I am still your host from Shacknews, long-reads editor David O. Craddock. This is the Shacknews E3 2019 live stream brought to you by HyperX. We are still at the E3 Esports Zone brought to you by SubNation. I am joined by my co-host, reviews editor at Shacknews, Blake Morse, and also by Damien and Zach from Sega. Blake.
Hello.
Blake, I've been hearing some rumors about this console that it does something.
I've heard that the Sega Genesis mini console does what Nintendo doesn't.
Oh!
That's right.
How about that? Bring back that classic branding, too.
No. Shots fired
Shots
immediately.
fired.
They haven't even said
Reigniting
words.
the console wars.
We've put words in the representative's mouth. Now let's let them speak for themselves.
Yeah, we have Sonic, Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympics 2020. So we do want to not push the Nintendo message too much, but then again, it might give them a little more motivation to compete when they're doing the 100-meter dash or something. So
see, this is
be
what
fun.
I love about this E3 is that because there's no Sony, there's no Microsoft, Sega and Nintendo are next to each other.
Yes.
So it's like we're kind of bringing it back to the 90s.
Yeah,
you know?
man. Let's
Now
fire
we need,
across
like,
that corridor, make that dangerous territory
That's
to cross.
exactly what I was thinking.
But now instead of glaring at each other from across the walkway, you guys are like holding hands.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's like
kinda
it's
beautiful.
kumbaya.
yeah, until it gets into Smash Brothers again, then Mario and Sonic they go at it.
Right.
There you go.
So tell us a little bit about this mini console, because you've been doing this slow rollout of game announcements. The lineup looks stellar so far. So tell me about how this project got started and how you've been rolling out these games.
You want to speak for that?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Zach. So this project's obviously been in the works for quite a while. We're very excited about the lineup. Once we knew the titles that were going to be there, marketing and comms did a wonderful job of thinking the best way to present all these titles, roll them out over time. It runs the gamut. There are titles that are classic, iconic games like Sonic, Sonic 2, Altered Beast, Streets of Rage 2. But there's also a lot of really unique titles. Mega Man, Wily Wars, Darius, Tetris.
I'm so excited about Mega Man
Yeah.
Wily Wars.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm so excited about it.
You guys are giving us a Mega Man game I haven't played.
I take it that's no small accomplishment either.
That is absolutely not a small accomplishment.
I think it's great when you put this in perspective. Like
Yeah.
Mega Man Wily Wars especially, it's like that's a game that was never released in America physically.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
only get that through the Sega Channel.
So let's get emotional here for a second. We're going to have like a Dr. Phil Oprah moment. Guys, we just saw Earthworm Jim being played. That was the first video game so challenging it made little kid me cry. I love it.
Maybe we can use that in our marketing material.
Use that in your marketing. That was Sierra in Electronic Arts. Our games will make you cry, and I'm like Earthworm Jim over here making me bawl.
Remember the underwater level with the glass, the ship you're in? They would start to crack as
I
you
think
get
that level was right after the hell level.
Yes.
You get literally out of hell, and now you're like, okay, let's go underwater, and you can like maneuver this big pod around.
Yes.
Killer soundtrack though. That's like I think that kept me going was that I love the music so much.
Right.
Oh my god, the music. Speaking of music, even the UI, the menu for this has new tracks that were produced by Yuzo Koshiro, who I'm sure our fans will know from Streets of Rage, Beyond Oasis, Etrian Odyssey, ActRaiser. So, I mean, the second you power it on, you're getting this amazing retro-style music from a legendary composer, and then you go in and play the games, and it doesn't stop. That's great.
That's awesome. I think what I really like about this, and Blake and I were talking about this early in the week, is that you're hitting you're kind of checking off all the boxes. You got the first-party Sega games that everyone includes, but you're also making sure to go after the third-party games like Earthworm Jim, like Mega Man Wily Wars, which I don't think a lot of people have played stateside, that Sega Genesis fans may have heard of, but this might be their first opportunity to play some of those games.
That was a big part of it because like we had the story where like I think in the first place they were trying to put, of course, the collection of titles that they wanted to use for the Sega Genesis Mini. I believe that they started with 30 titles. They wanted to like have a good solid foundation for that. And like, you know what? Surprise, the Genesis has a pretty massive library. It's like, let's get to 40. And so it's like the 40 from the entire pantheon of the Genesis library. Wanted to make sure, of course, that this is a lineup that people would love.
Yeah.
From every corner, as you mentioned, like there's action games, platformers, racing games, shooters,
Genre diversity.
RPGs.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Phantasy Star 4 fan, so that was one of those like really nice addition there. But that was great. We were able to work, as you mentioned, with our third-party partners, with like Capcom, Konami,
Oh my goodness.
yes, Taito for Darius, EA with the Road Rash 2, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interplay for Earthworm.
Interplay.
Yeah, when people see Castlevania Bloodlines and they see Contra, and they see the Capcom lineup, and it's just like, so many of these iconic titles
Right.
from other developers. We're really happy that we could bring those on board for our lineup.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think
So,
one of the. Oh, go ahead.
how many games did you consider, and what kind of made you choose the games you chose? Obviously, some are just givens, but there's a lot of stuff here that like I wouldn't have necessarily thought of. I'm glad they're there, but I'm like, oh my gosh, that game!
Yeah.
It's
You don't want to get Zach started on
really
Alicia,
for hardcore
right?
gamers.
Yeah, we wanted to speak to Alicia Dragoon. So I
Oh,
know how
that's-
passionate you are about
I think
that
one of the
inclusion.
coolest things, and I guess this is kind of a selling point, is that some of these games are so incredibly rare at some point that if you try to buy it like on the second-hand market on eBay or something like that, a used copy costs as much as this console does. Like I think with Elysian Dragoon, incredible experience. Like I didn't come to it until a little bit later. It's because the American box art, I think people were kind of not sure what exactly it was. Like I remember a lot of the Japanese box art. People not familiar, at least the Dragoon. It's from Game Arts, who people may be familiar with, like the Lunar series, for example. It's
Right.
also with Gainax,
Right.
who I believe with the Evangelion series. So that's a great collaboration. It's a little bit of like an action platformer side scroller with some Metroidvania elements. So it's like this incredible title with some great, once again, great music.
Oh man, so there are Metroidvanias on here before the term Metroidvania was even a thing.
Right. Oh, they existed long before.
Yeah,
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're getting to look at Castle Illusion starting to give us. This was the first game I ever
Disney.
played on Genesis.
Was it?
Yeah.
It's a good start.
Yeah, it's a classic. Totally crazy that we didn't see more of these, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They did an amazing job. Of course, this does also have World of Illusion, where Donald joins the fray.
That's right.
As it were.
Illusion Star, Mickey Mouse, and Donald Duck
Yes.
is the full title.
There we go. Thank you very much,
That's
sir.
the best part of writing these press releases. Got to get the
Yes.
full title.
Which I believe is actually it's essentially transliterated I Love Mickey, the Japanese title of the
Yeah.
games, which is
Oh,
pretty
nice.
cool.
It's so great.
But yeah,
Great
you
score.
look at the animation in this for the era when it first came out was mind-boggling. It still looks beautiful today. So it's astonishing what they accomplished.
That's awesome. Now, one thing I'm also curious about is, now we have the ability to make save states and things like that for a lot of these games. Like, what are some of the additional features that you guys are adding for sort of the things that don't ruin the game but kind of add a lot of the modern conveniences?
Yeah, so we should probably put in perspective that these are direct ports made by the masterminds at M2, who may be familiar with that. They did the Sega 3D Classics, they did the Sega Ages games on Nintendo Switch, and so they're known for being very meticulous, very dedicated to their craft, and so we are very proud to work with them on all the titles that we have in this library. So anyone who's familiar with those titles will know how great they are. So as far as additional features, they kind of wanted to keep it rather simple just because they didn't want to play too much with it, to play too much with people's nostalgia. So as far as what we got in features, it's that you either have the 4x3 with some a few wallpapers that you can choose from, or we have one that fits the screen. So it doesn't stretch the image, let's be clear. It doesn't stretch everything. It fills the screen, and then it adjusts the UI so that it fits with that wider screen, because of course we understand there's folks out there who prefer to have it the way it was with the 4x3, if they have like like an HD CRT or something like that, or they want to fill the screen. There's people who prefer it that way.
Well, guys, I've got a good news, bad news situation. The bad news is we are running out of time for this segment, but the good news is the 16-bit era will live on through the Sega Genesis Mini, as will the 16-bit console wars, thanks to this segment. But I wonder if you could tell us before we go, when will the Sega Genesis Mini be available?
Yes, it'll be available on September 19th for $79.99, 42 games. People should check it out. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's as much as one game cost back in the day.
Right,
so
right. Oh,
this is
yeah.
perfect. So thank you very much for joining us, Damien and
Thank you.
Zach and Blake,
Appreciate
as
it.
always. And we will be back soon. But before we go, head to shacknews.com. Check out the Shacknews Mercury subscription service, where you can gain access to more content like this, EPUB versions of our long reads, all sorts of exclusive perks only for subscribers. Again, starting at as low as $1 a month. I'm your host, David L. Craddock, long reads editor of Shacknews, and we will be back very soon.